You're listening to Big World Network.
Taking the Cake, Episode 1, an Estelle Watkins Mystery, written by Tristy Pinkston, read by Wendy Herman. You don't think she'll choose lime green, do you? I look terrible in lime green. Or cantaloupe. I should never wear cantaloupe. Very few people should wear food, Vera agreed, her voice dry. Estelle ignored her. And if she went with bubblegum pink, that would be terrible. Maybe I should talk to Becca. Every time I open up a bridal magazine, my eyes get zapped out of their sockets by all the bright colors. What happened to nice pastels? Vera shook her head. You do know this isn't your wedding, right? It's up to Andrew and Becca to decide what their colors should be. Or actually, it will be up to her. I don't think grooms get much say in these things, do they? I think the brides pretend to let them and the grooms pretend to care. In the end, the girl does what she wants, and he doesn't even notice, Estelle sighed. Can you believe it? Andrew's finally getting married after all this time. I was beginning to think we'd have to put him in the running for the world's oldest bachelor or something. He's not that old, Vera pointed out. And you wouldn't want him marrying just anyone, right? Wasn't Becca worth the wait? She's a really sweet girl, and she makes him so happy. Yes, I'm glad he found her. But if he'd waited any longer, I'd be too senile to recognize my grandbabies when they came to see me. Estelle's heart gave a sudden happy leap. Grandbabies. She wondered how long she'd have to wait for those. Gracious, if it took Andrew this long to get married, how long would it take him to start procreating? That whole senility thing happened a long time ago, Vera said. She reached out and took a muffin from the center of the table. So the colors haven't been chosen yet, I take it. What other arrangements have they made? Estelle grabbed her notebook. Becca called me last night and filled me in. They've chosen a church, one of those really nice ones that looks like it came out of the 1800s New England. You know the kind I mean, with the white spire and everything. It's just outside D.C. in a small suburb. The church wasn't available for the exact date they wanted, so they put the wedding on November 10th. That's only a week's delay, so it wasn't much of an issue. She's ordering invitations tonight, and tomorrow they're going to choose their cake. Do you see why the colors are so important? They've got to know the colors before they can do anything else. What if the invitations clash? Vera reached out and patted Estelle's hand. There, I'm sure everything will be just fine. Trust the girl to have good taste, would you? She has a good sense of style. I'm sure that applies to her taste in stationery as well. It better. The oven timer went off, and Estelle rose to take out the lasagna. Sometimes I think Andrew should have been a girl. Have you asked Andrew how he'd feel about that? Estelle raised her eyebrows as she set the pan on a trivet. I mean, I need to have a daughter. Have you asked Sam how he'd feel about that? Will you stop? I mean, it's killing me that I don't have any say in planning this wedding. If I were the mother of the bride, I wouldn't be on pins and needles over here waiting for updates. Oh, I think you'd be on pins and needles and hammers and axe handles. As the mother of the groom, you've got the easiest job in the whole wedding. You fork over some cash for flowers, wear the dress you're told to put on, go there and smile. How hard is that? Vera walked over to the sink to refill her water glass. Or maybe it's Sam who has the easiest job, because he can avoid that whole dress thing and just wear a suit. I guess you're right. I shouldn't complain. But if she chooses lime green... Vera shook her head and leaned against the counter. Why are you so sure she will? Because it's all the rage. I was looking at bridal magazines while I had my hair done yesterday, and every single page looked like a fruit salad. Were you at Peggy's Perms? Of course, that's where I always get my hair done. Vera should know that. She'd gone with Estelle dozens of times. Vera shook her head. Don't you know how outdated Peggy's magazines are? This year's colors are a lot more muted. Sage, plum, nudes, neutrals. They're all very restful. You have nothing to worry about, unless Becca decides to go against the trends. Estelle breathed a sigh of relief, but then paused. How do you know what the wedding colors are this year? Vera shrugged. I'm on Pinterest. Hey, I'll catch you later, all right? I've got to run. But dinner's almost ready. Aren't you going to eat with us? No, I've added to your grocery bill enough this week. See ya. Estelle contemplated her friend's sudden departure as she tossed together the green salad. Sam did complain quite a bit about how often Vera ate over at their house, but that's only because Sam complained about everything when it came to Vera. Estelle had hoped that her husband and her best friend would put aside their silly differences and get along at some point, but that point hadn't yet pointed, and she had given up on it ever happening. But surely Sam's disapproval wasn't keeping Vera away from dinner tonight. Vera would never do anything specifically to make Sam happy. Oh well, she'd ask Vera about it in the morning. In the meantime, she had some garlic bread to warm up. "Delicious as usual," Sam said, pushing back from the table. "You do spoil me." "Sam, I have to ask you a question." Estelle put her napkin on the table. "And be honest. Be completely honest." Sam sat back down, a curious look on his face. "All right. What is it?" "I was reading an article while I was having my hair done yesterday, and it said that 85% of men are upset when their wives serve leftovers for dinner. Does it bother you? Are you offended?" Sam chuckled. "That's what has you all worried? Sweetheart, your cooking is delicious, and so your leftovers are delicious. And it's not like we have them every night, anyway." "Well, you can't really have leftovers every night because you have to serve them in the first place. Otherwise, they aren't leftovers. But are you sure you don't mind them? It's hard to cook just enough for two, and I haven't scaled back my recipes." She hoped he was being honest with her. What if he'd been suffering in silence all this time? Sam reached out and took her hand. "I don't mind. In fact, I'd like to request tonight's leftovers for dinner tomorrow." Aw, if he wasn't the sweetest man alive. "I do need to talk to you about something, though." Sam played with his fingers. Oh no, he looked so serious all of a sudden. This didn't have anything to do with breakfast or lunch, did it? "There's been some talk at the office of letting one of us go, and because I'm nearing retirement, they're considering me for that dubious distinction. They'd give me a nice severance, and of course my retirement funds would kick in, plus our other investments. So we'll be fine financially, but I don't know, it's a little earlier than we'd planned. What would you think?" This was much, much worse than a discussion about breakfast foods. Estelle took a deep breath. "Wow, when did all this happen?" "They started talking about it 3 weeks ago, but my name wasn't proposed until today." Estelle played with her fork. She'd been looking forward to Sam's retirement, but this was a surprise. "So we aren't missing out on anything. You still get your 401k and everything else?" "Yes, and the severance will cover about half of what my paychecks would have been if I retired at the usual time." "Wow," Estelle said again. "That seems pretty generous." Sam nodded. "I think it's a very good offer. What do you say?" Estelle only had to consider it for a second. "You mean I get to have the world's most handsome husband home with me every day?" "You bet. When would all this go into effect?" "My last day would be Friday." "So 4 more days." That was so soon. How exciting, and yet she was also a little nervous. Was she ready for Sam to be home all the time? What if he didn't like how she vacuumed or folded the laundry? What if he criticized the music she listened to while she ironed? What if he threw all her routines right out the window? She took a deep breath. She could do this. She'd adjust. "I say, welcome home, honey."
You're listening to Big World Network.